The two pictures of
PR Connections Radio presents. This episode of Thinking into Results is brought to you by Classy Communications PR and Advertising. Classy Communications provides public relations and marketing solutions for businesses, professionals, and nonprofit organizations. They can deliver the true meaning of your business with press releases, social media marketing, web development, email marketing, book publishing, and much more. Wherever your potential clients are, they can help you connect with them. Visit classycommunications.net to learn more about their suite of services that can help your business stand out from the rest. Classy Communications is your solution for business success.
I guess you can be very successful without one, and probably some people do. But I would not have accomplished anywhere near what I have accomplished without a mentor. I have had a number of mentors, and my whole life has changed dramatically. I went from going nowhere to having a business that operates all over the world. If you want to win in a big way, you want to get a mentor. It's almost like getting a direct pipeline from their mind to your mind, where you're gaining all their wisdom, all their experience, and all the studying that they've done over a number of years. And like that, you get it all in a short period of time. Are mentors important? Well, I'm going to tell you, mentors literally changed the course of my life. Let's take a look at what Thinking into Results is and what it could do for you, how it came about. You see, my life had changed dramatically. I went from earning nothing to earning over $1 million a year. And I was sitting one day and I was thinking, how did all this happen? Do you know, I was reading Think and Grow Rich. I was studying Earl Nightingale's material. But a lot of people have read those books and studied Earl's material. And they weren't accomplishing what I was accomplishing. So I had to ask myself, what am I doing so different? You see, I had been raised to believe if you're going to earn a lot of money, you've got to be really smart. I was earning over $1 million a year, and I didn't think I was that bright. I was also raised to believe if you don't go to school, you can't win. Well, I hadn't gone to school. I went to high school for about 2 months. I didn't have a good job. I owned the entire company. If you want to be happy, healthy, and prosperous, it's all here. Thinking into Results is going to show you how to get it. If what I've said really triggered something in your mind and you're thinking maybe, contact the certified PGI consultant, hit the button, leave the information, do yourself a favor, sit down and talk to them about what this program can do for you. This very well could be the decision that will change the rest of your life.
Thank you, Bob. Bob's my inspiration, and he's my hero. Welcome to Thinking in Results, presented by S&J Mentoring. We show you how to accomplish your goals and your dreams. I'm Sid Maestri. I'm a certified consultant with Thinking in Results. My co-host today is my good friend John Gage, who's a voice-trained actor. Welcome to the first show in our 13-step series from Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. John is our resident guru for Think and Grow Rich. So John, can you tell us a little bit about Think and Grow Rich and the step we're going to be sharing with our audience today?
Absolutely, Sid. Thank you. Think and Grow Rich, this little book right here, was published in 1937 by Napoleon Hill, and he interviewed over 500 extremely wealthy people. And over a 25-year period, he came up with 13 steps. And so we thought we would share those with you and discuss them in some detail, one at a time. And today our first step is a burning desire. Be in love with your goals. So people go, well, what does desire mean? We all have certain, what does it mean in the way we're approaching it? Okay. When you look up Merriam-Webster's dictionary, there's a whole bunch of definitions, but there's a couple of verb definitions for them. There's a couple of noun definitions for desire, which I found interesting. I'll start with a verb. The first verb definition is to long or hope for. The second verb definitions, there's an A and B. A is to express a wish for or to express a wish to. In other words, to accomplish something or to receive something. There are several noun versions. There's 4. I'll do just 4 of them. The first one is conscious impulse towards something that promises enjoyment or satisfaction. The second one is a longing or craving. So you desire ice cream for dessert all the time because you crave it. It's something you have to have. Something longed or hoped for. A usually formal request or petition for some action. And what we see desire as is the first noun, basically. It's a conscious impulse towards something that promises enjoyment or satisfaction. And when you set a goal, when you set, whether it's money, whether it's weight loss, whether it's, a specific item that you want that you feel has been out of reach, you have to build that desire for that. And there are several examples all through history and through this and through thinking into results about how desire works. And I think the first, like I said, Napoleon talks about several, but the first one is Edwin C. Barnes. He wanted to become a partner with Thomas Edison. It's actually a really interesting story, and actually Sid knows quite a bit about that. So I'm actually going to turn that story over to Sid here for a minute so he can kind of tell you a little bit about, well, Sid's had desires of its own, but also what desire does to a person. And Edward C. Barnes happens to be a very good example of that. Sid, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you explain that story.
No, I like that. Thank you. I have an opportunity I'm going to share with you. I had never shared with John in all the years I've known him, because we're talking about burning. I'm sorry.
I said that's a shame, but I get to share. We get to share with everybody out there, so that's a good thing. So let's hear this wonderful.
Well, years ago, someone gave me, or I found Think and Grow Rich, and I read it, and I put it down because I got stuck. I got stuck on a burning desire. I didn't know how to create a burning desire. I didn't have a coach. I didn't have a mentor. And it took me till I met Bob Proctor to learn how to create a burning desire. But getting back to Edwin Barnes, he had a burning desire to be a partner with Thomas Edison. And he didn't have a lot of money, in fact, very little, and came in on a train. John told me that he mailed himself, but he was basically broke when he knocked on Thomas Edison's door and announced that he had come to be his partner. And Edison welcomed him in. He says, "Well, you'll have to start at the bottom." And he swept up, kept the laboratory clean, all his research. I don't know what else he did, but it took 5 years before a recording device, they called it a dictaphone, because we're talking around 1910 plus or minus. And it was a new item, and they weren't able to. No one was buying it, and he gave the task to Barnes to go out and market and sell the dictaphone. and he was very, very successful. Thomas Edison gave him more responsibility, an opportunity with other inventions. And in the process of all that, Barnes met other people, other businessmen that hired him as a consultant to help do how he'd done so well for Edison. So that's the burning desire. He had a burning desire. He would do it. When you have a burning desire, we like to use the expression, what's the difference between being interested in something and being committed? When you're interested, you can have desire, you're interested, but you only do what's easy. When you're committed, have a burning desire, you do whatever it takes. That was not illegal, immoral, or fattening. Do what it takes to get your goal, leading to persistence, which is something that we'll be talking about later. I'll throw the ball back to you, John.
Well, thank you, Sid. That Mr. Barnes was quite the character, because when he did show up, one of the things that he did is he didn't leave himself any options. He didn't have money to go home. He had one set of clothes. I think Edison described him as a hobo, but there was something about his demeanor, something about what he said. There was a genuineness about it that Edison said, well, okay, well, here you go, sweep floors. And Barnes is sweeping floors for 5 years, and all these salespeople are going, I can't sell this dictaphone, and Barnes is like, I can do it. This whole time Barnes was sweeping this floor, and he's going, okay, I'm just getting one step closer to my goal. And when the opportunity presented itself, and that's something that a lot of us miss too, by the way, is opportunity. But when the opportunity presented himself after 5 years of sweeping floors, he told Edison, he says, not only can I sell it, I'll install it. And it led to the saying called, what was it? Made by Edison, installed by Barnes. And it made him extremely wealthy for the time, over millions and millions of dollars. And one of the things there's several things I took from the story. Besides persistence, your desire has to be so overwhelming that it transcends everything else. This is something I want. I desire it, to the point that your mind says, this is going to happen no matter what. And you have to be willing to literally burn the boats. And the reason I use that terminology is in ancient times, there was a king that didn't have enough men to win the war. So he loaded them all in boats. They sailed over to where they were. They were in a war. He had them burn the boats. This is a quick version of the story. Had them burn the boats and said, okay, you can't get home. We either win or die. If you want to get home, we have to win. And they won, because he literally left them no options. And that's what Barnes did. And that's, a lot of people are like, they don't quite understand how desire works. And he's like, this is a do or die. I will either succeed or I won't. And he literally, through just desiring it and thinking it, created an opportunity for himself to obtain his goal. Anyone can do it, but you have to be willing to cut off all those avenues. You have to desire this with such passion that it's a definite thing in your mind. You don't see anything but that. I know we've talked about seeing in pictures. That's the reason for a vision board. It helps you see that goal, and it makes it definite. It makes it real. You do things like self-affirmation, and there's several other things we'll talk about here shortly that you need to do, that just, you get that goal And it took me a while to learn this too. I wish I learned it earlier. I've been doing, but that's okay. You when you're ready to receive something, it'll show up. But it has to be such a, you just, oh man, I gotta have this. And you know that if you retreat, you failed. Because one of the things about a desire, it makes that fear barrier that we've discussed, and we'll get to that in one of these as well, easier to push through. Doesn't make it go away, but it gives you that, I know what's on the other side. And that's what desire does. It's like, it's over there. And I know that grass is greener because I can see it. And it's such a vivid picture. And when I get over there, this is what I will have what I want. And it causes persistence. And persistence is probably one of the key things. And what I mean by persistence is you get up, you think about it. You get up, you read your affirmation. You take a step towards that goal. You don't listen to the negative from your relatives or your friends. Oh, you've got to stay in the real world. How many of us have heard that? I know you folks out there have heard that anytime you've had a dream. I know you've heard it, Sid. I've heard it. It's something that's going to happen. And you have to resist that. And having a burning desire makes that much easier to resist. Trust me, I know. Because at a certain point, you're just like, I don't really care what everybody else says. And it gives you that persistence. And persistence equals success. Retreating equals failure. Be persistent.
John,
have a burning desire and be persistent. Yes, sir.
I'd like to share the action step, the key action step to treating that burning desire.
I was actually getting to that. The six steps that we were talking about. Sid's actually going to present that. I'm looking forward to that.
Okay. Step number one, and we're dealing with money as the goal. And when you look at it, all the things you want in life cost money. So, step one, and I put this in the first person. Instead of you do this or you do that, first person, I, and I want you to be thinking the same way. I fix in my mind the exact amount of money I desire. It's not sufficient to say, I want plenty of money. I am definite as to the amount. There's a psychological reason for definiteness, which will be described in a subsequent chapter. So you got to be real sure what you want. Number two, I've determined exactly what I intend to give in return for the money I desire, such as a service or a product. A little aside here, there's no such reality as something for nothing. I still remember one of my father's favorite quotes was, there's no such thing as a free lunch.
No, there's not.
So number one, you want money. Number two, you know what you're going to give for it. Number three, you've got a definite date. I've established a definite date when I intend to possess the money. And fourth, I've created a definite plan of action for carrying out my desire. I begin at once, whether I'm ready or not, to put this plan into action. My comments about the plan, whatever your plan is, you start right where you're at. And if you don't think you don't have a plan, the very first part of the plan is to write it down.
Yep.
And also to know, and I think we all know going through life, you have a plan, you're going to do something, and something always comes up. You could call it a hiccup, a challenge, roadblock. But what comes in your path is a great opportunity to step aside, look at what you were doing, and have another perspective on how to get it done. I think there's a quote that John likes. In fact, I might have written down here. Aha. Every failure brings with it the seed of an equivalent success. And that seed is putting you back on the path towards your goal. So number 4 is the plan. Start where you're at. And it begins with writing it down, what we're talking about here. And the 5th is I've written out a clear, concise statement of the amount of money I intend to acquire. I've named the time limit for its acquisition. I've stated what I intend to give in return for the money. And I've described clearly the plan through which I intend to accumulate. So you get a nice little statement. And number 6, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is the action step. I read my written statement aloud with passion and unbridled enthusiasm. Unbridled would be my favorite word. Picturing a young colt going across the field. I read my written statement aloud with passion and unbridled enthusiasm twice a day, just before I go to bed at night and again when I get up in the morning. And as I read it, I see it, I feel it, and I believe I'm in possession of the money. You do that, we can guarantee success. You might laugh at that, but if you're committed, I have another, I won't read this today on another lesson about commitment, but the bottom line is when you know what you want, the universe will conspire to bring things to you, which can be a new idea, can be someone you met, something you read, something you saw, but from all directions that you didn't expect would show up. And that makes life exciting. And going after a goal, John, and our goal is to help you reach your dreams. And we're going to show you how to do it.
Absolutely.
So back to John, you might want to pursue that persistence. You had your favorite Thomas Edison story.
Well, the light bulb,
Oh,
the persistence. He just, when he was asked, well, you failed 10,000 times. He says, no, I just learned 10,000 ways of what not to do when making a light bulb. And that's taking your desire. Number one, if you can fail 10,000 times and still keep going, he had the desire to make this work. He knew it could. He just had to figure out how. Okay, well, there's one. Set one aside. It didn't work. Okay, I know that doesn't work, so I'm not going to do that again. Next one. Oh, that one didn't work. You set that. If you do that 10,000 times, it can get discouraging. But if you set that desire and turn it into something that is just you love and you know it's going to happen, look at all the wonderful things that have come from desires. I know we've talked about cell phones before and how people desired to have a wireless communication. The Wright brothers, they desired to fly. People made fun of them pretty hardcore too. They were like, yeah, right. If men were meant to fly, they'd give them, and they took a lot of criticism. But look, it's 100 years later. I hear jets go by my place all the time because I live near a military base, so I hear those planes all the time. If it wasn't for the Wright brothers, we wouldn't be hearing those planes.
John, you reminded me of something else.
Okay.
Because you're talking about airplanes, I'm thinking of the moon. And this goes back to 1961 with President Kennedy. Mm-hmm. I was talking to Werner von Braun, who's known as the godfather of the space program. He asked him, what will it take to get to the moon by the end of the decade? And it was 5 words: the will to do it.
Yes.
And the will to do it comes from the burning desire.
That is correct. And go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I want to shift back the will to do it. But back to Edison, the linchpin, the final thing that solved the problem. he was taking he takes power naps.
Yeah, 20-minute naps.
Yep. And he came out of it and he knew the answer.
Mhm.
He had the experiment, I guess, in some kind of a glass tube, and it would light, and just for a moment, and then it would go out, and that's what it kept doing. And then when he wakes up from his nap, he knew the answer. I've got to take the air out, and that's where that was the vacuum tube that was created for
And
the
that
for
now,
the,
now look at what we have.
yes.
I mean, because of that, we had tubes for wireless television, all because he created that one bulb, all because he had that burning desire to create light. So, with the 6 steps, and I want to get back on track here a little bit.
Sure.
With the 6 steps, the one thing, if you follow the steps, and you really need to follow the steps, especially if you have a burning desire, because what it'll do is it'll build that desire and it'll just make you have this passion in your heart to accomplish it, which makes the fear barrier that's awaiting you easier to pass through. And it also kind of saturates your mind with your goal. Even when you're not thinking about it, you're still kind of subconsciously thinking about it. And so you're taking steps to move forward towards it, and you may not even realize you're doing it because you have this burning desire. So your goal is getting closer and closer and closer. And I'm going to start winding down here a little bit. And the one thing about this that most of us don't realize, when you have a burning desire for something, or let's say you just don't care about life, it takes the same energy to aim high and demand abundance and prosperity as it does to accept misery and poverty. I mean, that is something that most of us don't consider, but it is true. And once that light clicks in you, it does. When it did for me, I was like, oh, that makes total sense. I'm not putting any more energy into seeking my goals as I did to accepting my life as it was, when I was having issues. And I'm a much happier person. I'm healthier. I have a great life. And my life keeps getting better, all for the same reason I take that energy and refocus it. And that's what desire does. It helps you refocus your energy. And once you become successful, never apologize for it. And when you're taking that path, you can acquire the beauty with desire is, like you said, with Edison, the ether, God, whatever you want to call it, will show you the way if you just leave your mind open to it. And it will come to you, and you will accomplish your goals without ever harming another soul. And I think that is one of the beauties of thinking into results and thinking about how we accomplish our goals, and thinking about them, it gives us those ideas so that we can have what we desire, and so can the next door neighbor, so can the cat, so can the people across the seas if they desire it, and literally put these steps into action.
Well, John,
yes, sir.
hate to cut you off. I'm looking at the time.
I was okay.
This has been terrific. I just love your sharing your insights in this burning desire. And I think you wanted to close with a little poem.
Yes.
Go for it.
Okay. And this poem really has a lot to do with what we've been talking about. I bargained with life for a penny, and life would pay no more. However, I begged at evening when I counted my scanty store. For life is just an employer. He gives you what you ask. But once you have set the wages, why, you must bear the task. I worked for a menial hire, only to learn dismayed that any wage I'd asked for of life would have willingly paid. And
Thank
with
you,
that,
John.
and you're welcome. And with that, we just want to thank you for sharing your time with us. If you wish to find out more, please contact us at www.sidmaestri.com. Again, it's on the screen, www.sidmaestri.com. Please like and share, and join us next week as we continue our 13-part series with part 2, Absolute Faith, no matter what. It's going to be great. It's going to be wonderful. And remember, S&J Mentoring, we show you how to accomplish your dreams. Have a great day.
Thank you, John. Good show.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.